This is the inaugural episode of Talking to the Dead with Janet Kubik. I'm your host, Joe Oliva. Let me introduce you to the star of the show, your friend and mine, Janet Kubik.
Hello. Wow, that was quite the intro.
Well, it was for an audience of 0 right now because we haven't posted anything online yet. So right now it's just me watching.
Perfect. Hello to you.
But the first person to watch will be your family.
Yes. My mom will be the first, I'm sure.
She's hitting refresh right now already.
Yeah.
And then, but anyway, it's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. It's been a while. I mean, in these crazy times, we haven't seen much of anybody these days.
Yeah, it's things will change. Energy shifting, as you say.
Yes, absolutely. So feeling ultimately very positive underneath all of the other that we're all experiencing, but underneath it all, definitely a deep sense of positivity and forward movement and growth and all of those good things. So we have to hang on to that.
Okay, so Janet, I spoke to you a while ago and we talked about maybe doing a YouTube show or a podcast and we weren't sure which, right?
Yeah.
So we decided to just start recording. This is totally unscripted. I just have some questions for you. I do have a piece of paper here because I have a terrible memory. We're flying by the seat of our pants a little bit, right? I'm just going to sort of volley some questions at you over time, and we'll see what happens. And we're not sure if it's going to go on YouTube or Facebook or just be an audio podcast, or we may just put it in different places, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever you feel called to do, it will transpire.
But I thought since this is the first episode, we should tell your mom what the plans are, right?
Yeah.
And down
Good
the
idea.
road, millions and millions or billions of people who will be watching or listening. Okay, so on Talking to the Dead with Janet Kubik, we have 5 things that we have in mind right now for show topics. Number 1, we might talk about things that have happened to you because some of them will literally blow people's minds. Not literally.
Yeah. Well,
Number 2, yeah. A lot of the younger generation, they use literally out of context, and I'm starting to do that now, and I don't like it.
Well, it's so funny you use the word literally because my littlest child used to say "littly" for like the longest time. Littly, and she would say it all the time.
That's when my parents were born. Literally.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, number 2, we might invite other people with similarly mind-blowing talents to join us on the show for an interview. Yep. Number 3, we might answer questions that people submit. I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that could be very interesting. I said interesting, weird. Sorry.
Yeah, we get questions all the time submitted in. A lot of them are personal. Like they're like, I want you to tell me what my grandfather was trying to say on his deathbed or whatever.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll keep that more general. We don't know what we're going to do. Number 4, we might have you do a one-on-one mediumship or channeling session with someone and record it.
That'd be cool.
Or number 5, other.
And
that's
I love
the most
that.
Exciting.
That's most exciting, and I also love that one because you keep doing this, and you know that I'm a dancer, and like this to me, I immediately think of jazz hands. So I love that. So other could be anything. It could be an interpretive ballet. We really don't know.
Others should have jazz hands because it is jazzy topic.
Yes, agreed.
Okay, and so we haven't planned past this episode. But for this episode, on today's agenda, we have 3 things that we want to cover. 3 things. Number 1, how we know each other, right?
Yeah.
Number 2, what does spirit medium and channeler generally mean, and what are your specific talents? And number 3, I'm going to ask about your journey into mediumship and channeling.
That's a big one. Okay.
So how we know each other.
Oh my goodness, we've known each other for a really long time now. We met in our early 20s. So both of us
So
have
5 years,
background.
5 years
Yes.
ago.
Oh, I knew I liked you. Yeah, I like you for a reason, and that's one of them.
You are younger
So
than me, for the record, though.
I am. Thank you for clarifying.
By
Not by
quite a
much.
bit. By quite a bit.
No, not a lot. Okay. All right. So both of us have backgrounds in the entertainment industry, in performing, and that's actually how we first met, through the group that you were singing with at the time.
We pulled you in to be our choreographer,
Yes, you did,
and then
which
you
we will
were.
not talk about because no, we can, but choreography maybe not like the strong suit of. Never
My
mind.
band.
Moving on. Moving on.
Okay, I was gonna say you made elephants dance.
Okay, well, that's a good way to put it. That's a good way to
Yeah.
put it.
But you were my
Yeah.
choreographer first, then you were my choreographer slash friend, and then you're now my friend slash choreographer.
Hence the jazz hands. Yes.
That's the only move I retain. Okay, and then we kept in touch. We were friends over the years. I sang at your wedding, and
Yes.
strange small world. I knew your husband before you did,
Yes.
from a totally different city,
Totally different city,
an
totally different
hour away
scenario.
from you. Yeah, I went to high
Yeah,
school
so
with him.
it's amazing how we really truly are all connected somehow. So yeah, but it was great to reconnect because there was a long period of time there where I was having kids and doing that whole thing, and we didn't really see much of each other. So it was kind of cool. And actually, one of the things I'm thankful for with this gift or ability, whatever you want to call it, is because it ultimately led to the rekindling of our friendship.
I don't think the friendship was ever dead. I don't think it needed to be rekindled.
Okay, wrong choice of words. It brought us back together more literally, because even though we were
Yes.
still friends, we were friends from afar. But this
Yes.
brought us back to being friends up close.
Yes.
Fair?
Fair. While we were chatting on Facebook, you were telling me about your abilities. I had actually sort of already heard from our mutual friend that this was going on. And
Yeah.
anytime I hear that someone has these talents, because I wasn't quite an atheist. I was spiritual but not religious, to use the cliche. And I do think that some people have your talents, and I think that there are also some frauds out there, and it just goes like there are also some bad mechanics, right? There are great
Yes.
mechanics, and there are some dudes who. Anyway, so I heard that you had this newfound talent, and so anytime I hear about this, I think there are three possibilities. So number one is that they're lying, right? Number two is that they're losing their mind.
Yeah.
Number three is that they're telling the truth. Those are to me the three options. I knew that you weren't lying because I had known you for decades, and you're not the type to for two reasons. And this is going to sound, one of them sounds rude, but it's not intended to be rude.
Okay.
So be prepared. Number one, you don't have it in your persona to create this masterful lie that you're and Googling people and finding out info about them so that when they come meet you.
I'm way too technically challenged for that. Technologically challenged, yeah.
That was the next point. That's kind of an insult, is that like it took us 30 minutes to get this Zoom call going, Ethan.
And that was because of me. Because of me.
You kept clicking the wrong buttons, but so there's no way that you could just and then some people say, oh, they're reading body language and whatever. It's like, I just can't see you putting that kind of effort into it, and it's not in your personality to do that. So I knew that you weren't lying, not a possibility. So I thought you're either losing your mind or you're telling the truth.
Yeah.
Either were possible at that point in time. So I drove to see you and hang out. We hadn't hung out in a few years. And you basically did a one-on-one with me, sort of unannounced, and you blew my mind. You described in great detail, so much detail that it would be impossible for someone to guess at the detail. And there weren't any misses. So you basically described me the day before, frustrated.
Yeah.
I was still a professional musician at the time, which I'm now retired from. And I was going to pick up one of my bandmates, and I had a very frustrating journey. I was running out of gas. It was late. There's this whole thing. I was looking at the sign. You described me looking at the sign, and you described me writing on my receipt, which I had written something long that I normally don't. You described me. You described me thinking about getting a chocolate bar.
Chocolate bar. That's right.
But thinking I need to maintain this svelte physique.
Right.
So I didn't get it. And you described everything to a T. And so that was just mind blowing to me. And so I thought, okay, she's not losing her mind. This is some other talent coming from I don't know where, but anyway. So then we started talking more and more about it, and I'm your manager now.
Yeah.
And I'm your host.
And you're my host. And you're kind of the everything guy.
Yeah.
You're my tech support and my emotional support when I'm trying to manage all of this craziness that has become my life. It's funny because a few times you've mentioned what I do or my abilities as talent, and it just sort of keeps popping into my head that as opposed to talent, I don't know, I lean more towards abilities. Because I think with talent, we sometimes think it is something that not everybody's born with. You know, some people are born to be better basketball players, and some people are born to be better dancers or singers. But with what I do now, with regards to spirit, it's an ability that I believe we all have. And I'm not saying that necessarily means that, you know, I can play basketball to a degree. Doesn't necessarily I'm going to, you know, be in the NBA, or what's the women's version of NBA? Forgive me, I'm not. Thank you. I'm just not a good sports person in terms of knowing all that stuff. But yeah, I still have some ability to play basketball, and I think it's the same with intuition. And it's the same with connecting with spirit and the other side, however you like to call it. It is an ability that we all have. And then it was my choice, although to be honest, it didn't really feel much like a choice at the time, but it ultimately was my choice to decide to hone that ability and hone that skill set. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to interject with that. And the other thing that I was thinking about too, with the whole idea of lying, and actually no, oh wow, I'm getting really distracted.
Do it.
So
okay.
Yeah,
I'll explain this while you tune in. So sometimes Janet just gets distracted, she calls it, and I can also tell sometimes she starts clearing her throat unnecessarily. She goes and that means that spirit is trying to interject. And so we agreed ahead of time, if spirit decides to pop in, we'll give them a couple minutes, right?
Yeah. So there is a feeling coming forward, or a sense of spirit wanting to sort of formally introduce themselves to everybody who is taking the time and making the effort to tune into this channel, this opportunity to learn. And we're entering a phase in the evolution of humanity where learning and growth and allowing ourselves to open our minds to new and greater possibilities is going to be literally essential. So they are very thankful to us for creating or providing this forum, but also to those who are taking the opportunity to tune in and to get to know them. It's really cute. So that message came directly from one of my spirit guides. Often you'll notice if I am channeling or connecting with spirit, my focus shifts because I'm really trying to hone in on them. But this is now me talking again. back
Yes.
to you. And it's really cute because I can really feel this overwhelming sense of almost gratitude. And I almost want to use the words like, not sheepish, but they're very, see, I'm not sure I know the exact word, but they're very thankful. They're very almost, oh, I can't think of the word. And this is the other reason I know that I'm not lying, because when I'm speaking with spirit or allowing spirit to speak through me, I can speak so eloquently and
I know.
fluidly. And then when
Yes.
I try to talk, I get nuts.
I've been working with you long enough. I know the difference.
Yeah.
Like when you're fumbling over your words, it's like, oh, there's Janet, right?
Oh, there's Janet. Yeah.
Yeah, and also when you send me typed messages, because sometimes you type stuff onto your phone from spirit, I've never encountered a single spelling error or grammatical error. I mean, there's some grammatical debate, right?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like we've debated the word irregardless, but then I look it up and it's like, well, it used to be used back in the olden times, so who knows? But there's never a single spelling error in that. And I know, and people say, oh, autocorrect. But when you type me messages, it's just full of spelling errors.
Hey, okay, too much personal information.
There's a huge, anyway, go ahead. So I don't want to.
So I'm going to jump back and just say that the word that I'm actually getting is humble. They feel very humbled for this opportunity to be able to be reintroduced is how it's coming forward to me. It feels like they're almost sort of saying that they've gotten a bad rep or rap. Rep. So
reputation. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So bad. And I've heard that before. I think a bad rep. So it's been a long time, and for them that they've been waiting to kind of step forward again. Sorry, I'm getting this from them, so I need to kind of hone in again. They're just very anxious and excited to be able to be being heard. A lot of our societal structure has sort of forced them out in a way. And it feels like now they're finally getting the invitation to sort of step back into their position of being a resource, into their position of being a support for those of us who are here walking in the human experience. And that is actually a phrase that they often use, is walking in the human experience, to refer to those of us who are here, who are living life in the physical realm, or basically who are human.
Right.
So now I'm kind of jumping back again to, you were talking about when I started discovering these abilities, and two things: the idea of going insane, because to be perfectly honest, when this first started happening to me, I absolutely thought that was potentially what was happening to me. And funny, but also, being brutally honest, very, very scary.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
So okay. So okay.
But the other thing too, because the other thing I was going to say is that it's funny how you sort of came to trust in what was happening to me, because you knew me so well, and because of the eloquence of the messages and things like that, because that was one of the first turning points for me, where I felt like I wasn't going crazy, because spirit first started communicating through me that I was consciously aware of through writing. So I was doing
that's called automatic writing, right? If people want to look it up,
So I've come to learn that would be referred to as automatic writing. So for me, what was happening was I was feeling a lot. I was really unhappy, very depressed, very overwhelmed by the state of the world. This was several years ago now, but so I would write, and I would call it vent writing, because I wouldn't really focus too much on the structure of what I was writing, or where it was going, or grammatical, conditions of it, or anything like that. It was just write whatever would come out of me. And I started writing things that were actually being said to me. So for an example, I would write about my frustrations, and then sort of interjected in the middle would be, you are loved, or we are here. One was, you will know us. And so I started recognizing that I was writing this stuff is I would read it back and think, where did that come from? And started asking questions. What is this? I would literally write the question. Who are you? What is this? And I would get, the answer, a friend. And again, you will know us.
Okay. Just quick interjection.
Yeah.
That's how some Stephen King movies would start.
Yeah.
Right?
Right? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Just a little bit on the freaky side. But then the one day, I remember it so clearly, I actually wrote a whole paragraph of information that I was receiving. And I remember running downstairs to the living room and saying to my husband, I need you to hear this. And I read it to him, and he said, again, not to be offensive to me in any way, but he said, honey, you're a very intelligent woman. He said, but those are not your words. You don't talk or write like that. And in that moment, I just had this feeling like, you're right. It isn't coming from me. It is coming from somewhere else. And that's when I started to become more confident that I wasn't going crazy. This wasn't some part of me talking to myself, that these messages and information were actually coming from somewhere else.
So your husband saw, and I, anytime you send me stuff, I know if you wrote it or if it was written from your mediumship or channeling sessions. It's just, it's more, it's different language. It's not, there are not words you would use anyway.
Yeah, and oftentimes it's funny because I will receive messages and I, like, as you said, I write them. So I write exactly what I hear, and then I have to go back and look up the words because I've never used them before, or sometimes even heard them before. So I don't know if they're in the right context or not.
You've done that while we're talking on the phone. You're all of a sudden you go into that and you say a word, and I'm like, I know she doesn't know what that means, and I Google it. It's like a
people are going to think I'm really very not intelligent. And I just called it not intelligent, which isn't the correct word either. So I'm not making very good first impression on these people.
No, you're very intelligent.
Okay.
And just going back to talent versus ability.
Yeah, okay.
I call it talent.
Yeah.
Because that's what I wrote on my business card, talent manager.
Right. Okay, so from here on, moving forward, we will refer to it as talent, just to make you feel more legit.
You can call it whatever you want,
okay.
But I have business card that says talent manager on there. So
okay,
because I can say abilities manager. Anyway,
no, not quite as good.
Okay, so as all of our phone calls, we've kind of jumped around.
Yeah.
We talked about how we know each other. We talked about a little bit about your journey into mediumship and channeling. Can we go back to what does spirit medium and channeler generally mean and what your specific talents are? So we talk about like clairaudience, clairvoyance, etc., and things like that. Just for the first episode, just let people know.
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that, as you know, I always like to do is preface everything I say by saying in my experience, because this is all new to me. If you would have told me, 6-7 years ago that I'd be sitting here talking to you on a show called Talking to the Dead, I would have had no idea that it would be me who would be the person who was talking to the dead. So this has been a real learning curve. Tons of new information that I'm trying to learn and understand and amalgamate. And so I also am aware that what I knew even 10 days ago is vastly different from what I know today. So from my experience, what I understand mediumship to be is basically a conduit. It's like a go-between. So it's someone who is able to connect the spirit realm and the physical world. So again, terminology. I mean, there's all sorts of different terms for these things. And again, my feeling is that whatever speaks to you or makes you comfortable or resonates with you is what to go with. So, you could say it's a conduit between dead people and living people, or people who are in heaven or in people who are on earth. But there is this sort of difference of distance between the two, and the ability of a medium is to sort of connect them. Does that make sense?
It does to me.
Okay.
I think it does. So tell me the difference between mediumship and channeling, because you've done both, and you haven't channeled very much that I've seen, but the few times that you have, it was nuts.
Yeah. So again, from my understanding and from my personal experience, channeling for me it's almost like a deeper connection. It's where I almost allow sort of a deeper connection to form between myself and spirit. And because of that, spirit is able to more clearly communicate through me. So as opposed to mediumship, where it's like spirit are sort of showing me things or telling me things, and I'm trying to see it or hear it and take it and share it myself with someone else. Channeling is more like I say, okay, you can go ahead and speak through me. So what happened earlier in this podcast was an example of channeling. So in those few moments, I was allowing my guide, my spirit guide, or one of my spirit guides, to actually speak through me at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is incredible, but I think it impresses people more, and it's more shocking to people when it's someone they know. You've channeled for people, and you've used their dead relatives' mannerisms or whatever, their physical mannerisms.
Yeah.
And I think that blows. You've used accents from languages you don't know. You've channeled Spanish, and you didn't even know you were writing it phonetically down, which is just, you didn't even know what it was saying. We didn't even know it was Spanish, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're trying to figure out, and then it made perfect sense to the person that we got that message to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
There's sort of varying degrees for me with the channeling and or different aspects of it. So for example, one would be to just sort of allow the energy or spirit to speak through me. And then is sort of another layer where, as you mentioned, I actually take on their sort of mannerisms or their accents and things like that. Yes.
Right, but it's not like a demonic possession.
No.
That would be going down the Stephen King movie script. That's not what it is at all.
No. And one of the things that I learned fairly early on in this whole process is that I'm in charge. Every individual, every human is in charge of what their relationship is like with spirit. Just like I'm in charge of my relationship with you, I can set boundaries, I can set parameters. There's things I'm comfortable with. If it's something I'm not, I can say, hey, that bugged me, whatever. It's the exact same thing with spirit. So from the very beginning, I have been, I wouldn't say the very beginning. It did take me some time to learn this, and that was challenging. But once I did learn it, I sort of put it into effect. So I have my boundaries, and there are things I will allow and things I won't allow. Primary example, I will only connect with positive, loving energies. I will only connect with spirit that whose intention is to support us and bring forward love and light. And now people are going to be like, what do you mean? Is there spirit who isn't loving and supportive? Because we all tend to think of spirit as being loving and, all of the things. And that is actually going to have to be another episode of this podcast. That's another whole lane.
I'm going to write it down.
So take notes, but we can definitely address that another time. But don't anybody be afraid. I don't want anybody to be afraid, but just know that we are always ultimately in control of that relationship.
Okay, so I think that we have enough for your first episode. We've jumped around a little bit, but I think we've covered most of the stuff that we wanted to cover. Um, as your manager, I'd like to tell people to go to your website, janetkubik.com. We're going to put that right on the screen for them to type out, and subscribe to your email list. You can subscribe to your Facebook group, and you're on Twitter and Instagram. You've written some books that they might want to know about. So everything's available at janetkubik.com, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you are watching and or listening to the first episode of Talking to the Dead with Janet Kubik, and I'm your host, Joe Oliva. Thanks for joining us, and if you want to, please subscribe on whichever platform you're joining us on, and help spread the word by sharing. Say goodbye, Janet.
Bye. Thanks so much for checking in.
Thank you.
Bye.